Hi, welcome to section 5.2. We're talking about least common multiples, least common denominators, and we're going to add and subtract fractions. Okay, I am going to skip objective 1 because we did that one in class, and that was finding least common multiple by factoring. I'm going to go to objective 2. We're going to add fractions with like denominators first, and then we're going to add fractions with unlike denominators. I'm only going to do a few problems because these problems take a long time and I want to make sure that the video is not too long. So I'm going to start out with number 7 and number 8, and then we'll move on to the next objective. So I'm going to skip number 6. When we add fractions that have the same denominator, they're not as difficult as if the denominators are different. So let's just review what we have to do when we have the same denominators. Let's say I had 1/3 and I added 2/3 to it. When you have the same denominator, you leave the denominators alone and you just add the top and we get 3/3, and then you reduce. We're going to do the same thing. So let's look at 7. I have 4y plus 3 over y minus 2, and then y minus 2 over y minus 2, and we're going to subtract them. And if you notice, the y minus 2's are the same. So that's going to make our job really easy. We're just going to have y minus 2 on the bottom. Now the reason I did number 7 instead of number 6 is because this is a subtraction problem. And what you want to do is you want to be very careful that you distribute that subtraction sign to both the y and the -2. So on the top we're going to have 4y plus 3. Now we're going to have minus y, but we are also going to have plus 2. You have to get rid of any parentheses and combine your numerators before you can add anything and do any simplifying. Now we're just going to add our numerators together by adding our like terms. And we have 4y minus y, so that's 3y. And we have a positive 3 and a positive 2, so that's plus 5. And we're over y minus 2. Now once you get that far, you ask yourself 3 questions. Can I factor anything? And can I factor out the top? No. Can I factor out the bottom? No. And then once we know we can't factor, we're done with our step 2. Our step 3 is to cancel anything, and if I look, I cannot cancel anything, so I am done. So we're done with that one. Number 8, the reason I want to do that one is because if you look at the denominators, they're almost the same. Y squared minus 1 is almost the same as y minus y squared. We just got to switch some stuff around. And we do that by multiplying by -1. If we take this part times a -1, and if we take the top, in other words, if we change our sign, we are changing the problem so that the denominators are the same. So we leave our y squared minus 1, and we leave our 2y minus 3. If we take the top times -1, we're technically changing from a subtraction to an addition problem. We leave our 4 minus y on the top. And then on the bottom, we're going to change that. Now if you think about it, -1 times 1 minus y squared, if I use the distributive property, I get -1 plus y squared, which is equal to y squared minus 1, which is what we want. So you write y squared minus 1. Now we have on the top 2y minus 3 plus 4 minus y over y squared minus 1. Simplify by adding your like terms. So we have 2y and minus y, so that's y. And then we have a -3 plus 4, so that's plus 1 over y squared minus 1. Once we get that far, we ask our last three questions. Can I factor? I cannot factor the top, but I can factor the bottom, and that becomes y minus 1 times y plus 1, because that's the difference of perfect squares. So let's rewrite our fraction one more time. Y plus 1 over y minus 1 times y plus 1. Our last step is, can I cancel anything out? And the answer to that is yes. The y plus 1s will cancel. If everything cancels on the top, it's just a 1, and we're left with y plus 1 on the bottom. So last step is to cancel. Okay, so that's when the denominators are basically the same. When the denominators are different, then what we have to do is find the least common denominator. Okay, so I'm only going to do one of these, and I am going to do number 10. So step 1, we're going to factor out the denominators and the numerators. If I look, I have no factoring in the top. Okay, in the bottom I have y plus 2, y minus 2. So y squared minus 4 is equal to y minus 2 times y plus 2. So I'm going to rewrite my fraction. So I have negative 2 over y plus 2 plus 5 over y minus 2 plus y plus 3 over y plus 2 times y minus 2. Once I find and factor all that stuff out, I have to find the least common denominator. The least common denominator will be everything that I see, and if anything's being repeated, I only have to write it down once. I see a y plus 2. I see it twice, but I only have to write it once. I also see a y minus 2. I see it twice, but I only have to write it once. That becomes our new denominator. So when we rewrite each fraction with our new denominator of y plus 2 times y minus 1, or sorry, y minus 2. So now we ask ourselves, what did I do to this fraction, or to my denominator, to get the second one? I took it times y minus 2. In other words, I'm looking for what's missing. What I do to the bottom, I do to the top. So we have on the top negative 2 times y minus 2. My second fraction, on the bottom I have y plus 2 times y minus 2. I'm asking myself the same question, what did I take the bottom times? I took it times y plus 2. So that means I got to take the top times y plus 2. So I get 5 times y plus 2. And I look at my last fraction. If I notice, the denominator does not change. So if the denominator does not change, then the numerator does not change. So I still have y plus 3 on the top. Now, in order to add my numerators together, I have to distribute and get rid of all the parentheses. So I will have negative 2y plus 4 plus 5y plus 10 plus y plus 3 all over y plus 2 times y minus 2. Add all my like terms. I have a negative 2y plus a 5y plus a 1y. So negative 2 plus 5 is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4. So I have a 4y. And then I have a positive 4, positive 10. So that's 14 plus 3. So that's plus 17 over y plus 2 times y minus 2. I asked myself, can I factor anything out in the top? I cannot. Do I have to factor anything in the bottom? It's already factored. Can I cancel anything? I can't. So that means that that is my answer.